So I almost forgot to do this today because it was just kind of like might as well do this video today instead of. So usually what I do is I just for weeks like this where it's a complete comic haul for the previous month and I have this video comic review yada yada yada. I will publish them ahead of time, record them not all at once. I can't do that these days. But not record them all at once, but rather be like Monday is Tuesdays and just the day before and I publish it the day after. Can't do this one. This one's a longer video and it takes a lot more because I'm taking a bunch of books out of the shelves and they're not all right next to one another, so I have to be like, okay, this is on this row, this is on that row, and it's a pretty nice stack of books. Alright, so this is every Image comic that I read in September 2025. Now, one thing I do want to briefly mention is that if I read the library's copy of the hardcover and I have the softcover, when I do these reviews, it's going to be the softcover. Now, for books like the first one here, I did review it before, so if you want the hardcover review early, and you want the hardcover review and you want the review of the book early, you get that early. So Paper Girls is this month's book in November, which is crazy to think about. But in November, or no, probably at the end of October, but I don't know. I'm probably going to start doing these in the beginning of the next month, like I do with the comic haul. So it'll be the second of the month. That's probably going to be the new norm. New norm. Because again, I could not do it on the 31st, the 30th, rather, of September. That was just too much video to do. And especially it was a school night, too. So couldn't do that. But anyways, I think even then I had to do. No, I did not do. I did not have to do the complete comic haul for September. But anyways, you will get the review of the hardcover of Paper Girls early before I return it. And even then, it's going to be like each individual hardcover because I can't keep them all the entire month. I think that's a bit not risky, but a bit kind of mean, kind of mean too. It's like, well, you finished the first two. And you're just holding the third one you're just holding it hostage because you haven't finished the third one because you want to read them all at the same time, and so the only time you'll see all three of them together is when I did that initial comics I'll be reading for this month. Which, yes, it is weird that I did that before I did this. But anyways, let's get into it. Transformers Worst Bot Ever. This is the one I reviewed already, so I'm going to keep it brief. I really thought this was juvenile. I thought this was just like, again, you have Scurry, and Scurry is surprisingly mature, surprisingly, like, it doesn't really feel like it's made for 8 and up, but it is 8 and up because there's no swears in it, it's not super violent, it just deals with pretty heavy subjects for a kid's comic. Especially, honestly, they make that into a kid's movie, it'll be the next Puss in Boots' Last Wish. Like, I will go so far as to say that, just to put it into perspective of how great Scurry is. It is honestly, like, one of the finest Image comics of all time. Like, not just for kids, in general. It is that damn good. And Family Force 5 was the surprise of the year, honestly. I just went into it with very low super low expectations, but I didn't, like, I just got it because, hey, it's, the writer is the guy who was behind Amphibia on Disney. Yeah, I'd never seen the TV show, but that's kind of cool. And he's doing an Image book, and I'm already collecting Image books, and already collecting Image Comics Skybound comics. That's perfect. So this comes from a imprint of Image called Skybound Comet. And Skybound Comet, like I said before, it's from kids to young adults. It's going out to that crowd of the young adult DC comics. Like, you have, like, I'm Not Starfire, and you have Teen Titans Raven. It's going out to that same exact crowd. In fact, some of them say, for fans of Teen Titans Raven, here's Sea Serpent's Heir. And it's like, and again, so the other thing is that it's digest size, too. So it's smaller than your average Image Comics trade, or your average comic trade, rather. That same thing for DC Comics. In fact, I think it's the same exact size, too. So again, going to that same crowd. But yeah, going back to the review of itself, I just want to get that little intro out of the way. Again, found this super juvenile. Found this to be just kind of boring at times. Like, a little bit. It's 96 pages. It's a very thin book. So the pacing was good enough, and it kept my mild interest throughout. But I was glad to be done with this one. If it was any longer, I probably would have given this a lower score than a 5 out of 10. It's just average at the end of the day. Because when you consider it, yeah, it's for kids, so they're not gonna. They know that they're gonna go for that kids crowd. They don't have to go any further than that kids crowd, and it's obvious that Brian Spitty Smith is only a kiddie comics writer because, goddamn, does it show. This one, again, 5 out of 10 is just average. Because when you treat it, when you review it as a kids comic, it's still kind of average. Like, I feel like kids would read this, like, yeah, that was okay, and then they go on to read Dogman instead, or the next issue, a next book in the Dogman series, or whatever else kids are reading nowadays, the next Wimpy Kid. It kind of feels like a B-tier Wimpy Kid book, honestly. And even Wimpy Kid, like, the juvenile jokes in here, I think even Wimpy Kid would, like, that's too immature for even Wimpy Kid. That is how immature and juvenile some of these jokes are. There's literally at the end, and to be fair, it's a callback. I do like callback jokes, and I think it was done well at the end, but they have, ain't that funny. Yeah, it just, the worst kind of humor is present in here. You could have done another joke, like anything else, Bucket of Bolts. It's not the funniest joke in the world, but it's not stupid and juvenile and annoying. And that's the other thing. The character in this book is super annoying. That's the point, but it's that overly annoying kind of written character. It's like, oh, SpongeBob, he's supposed to be written annoying, and then they forget that, no, you need to be a competent writer to write a character like SpongeBob that's annoying to the other characters in the show, but endearing to the viewer. This guy is just annoying. You understand why. You honestly start to sympathize, almost sympathize, for the villains. Yeah, they're very mean-spirited towards him. That's like, yeah, it's not okay. But, like, kind of like, yeah, well, I can understand where the annoyance comes from. The annoyance, not the actions, I think is the best way to describe how I feel about the character here. The annoyance is understandable. The actions are not. But, yeah, just not that great. Honestly, the action's kind of, yeah. It's just very predictable, too. Like, you know exactly what's going to happen, and it's no surprise. So it just feels like a huge slog. And one of those books that I almost forgot I read. And I'm sure a few months from now, if I ever do, at the end of the year, get down to just doing all the trades of the series I've read this entire year, if I end up doing that video, I probably will forget about this book. I have to remind myself, because that's why I have my little notes app to remind me. But anyways, 5 out of 10, just average. And honestly, even for kids, it's painfully average. And as, like, if I'm judging it as a book itself, it is less than average. Even as a kid's book, painfully average. Now on to my pick of the month is Dark Ride. I think, honestly, looking at all the way I've read this past month, I think Dark Ride gets the pick of the month for September of 2025. This is written by, nice. Alright, so this is written by Joshua Williamson. And I'm already rereading Ghosted this month, number one, because it's Halloween, and two, to give it a second chance. So I didn't really like Ghosted. So Joshua Williamson, and I did like Night Terrors, and I did like his Marvel work. It was lesser known book. It has the hood in it, whatever that book was. I forget what it was called. I think it wasn't Thunderbolts. No, it wasn't that. It's like, oh, Illuminati. So get Illuminati. Like that miniseries. I liked Night Terrors, but Ghosted, I was like, that was okay. And his indie work in general, so Ghosted, that was okay. And then his indie work in general, I thought was just okay. Deathbed, I reread, thought it was a little bit better than it was the first time, but still was like, meh. But Dark Ride is his magnum opus thus far, even like leaps and bounds better than Night Terrors, anything else I've ever read by him. This, first of all, I kind of wish I wish I waited until this month to read it, but I'm glad I read it back in September, I guess, but this is, I'm glad I read it back in September so I can review this now and recommend this now, because I think this is the highest recommendation possible for a graphic novel. Uh, it's, like in 12, honestly, I feel like you could read this entire series in one day, and it'd feel like nothing. Like, yeah, I had to take breaks, but like, speaking of myself, I had to take breaks in between, but it feel like nothing to read this entire series all in one day. It's first of all, it is extremely addictive. Like, it's one of those like page turners. Couldn't put this book down. That's this book in a nutshell. Those like keep ending on cliffhangers. I was like, wow, that's a surprisingly uh, effective cliffhanger. I don't know where this book is gonna go from here, and it was just in it. It's a huge love letter to amusement parks and that type of horror in general. Honestly, I think Joshua Williamson should write the next Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I feel like he'd be a really good writer for Five Nights at Freddy's. He's gonna go his own way with it, but he'd be a really good writer for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Maybe do an animated. If they're gonna make the live action ones, maybe make an animated one off the side, like how they do with Spider Verse, and then maybe even make the animated one R rated or something like that. But absolutely phenomenal stuff from Joshua Williamson. His magnum opus, one of the best comics I've read this year. Might even be the best I've read this year. It is that damn good. And it's 3 volumes too, by the way. 12 issues total. Alex plus Ada. So I was thinking, like, just this morning, I was thinking back, I was like, I don't know what reminded me of Alex plus Ada. Something did. And actually, that's what it was. I was thinking of, so The Simpsons, I know, weird little connection here, but The Simpsons movie is coming out, the second one, sequel, coming out in 2 years from now. And I was thinking, 2 years from now, hey, I wonder if I'll have a friend group that actually likes going to the movies. The friend group I have now, some of them do, but it's kind of hard to get the friend group out in general. Like, after work, it's hard to get them out. So it's real hassle to get them to, it's one of those things. I'm not going to go too in depth into it, but the point is, I think in the next, like, 2 years from now, hopefully I have a friend group that we constantly go to the movies, we constantly go out, like, to the movies, to the mall, here and there, you know, hiking, whatever the hell. Honestly, my cousin, I could probably go with him, the one I stream with. Hopefully 2 years from now, he has his workaholic ass under wraps, and he's, you know, can take time off for excursions other than once a year. But anyways, maybe that's a once a year thing. But anyways, point is, I was thinking 2 years from now, hey, what if I have a girl? And now it's like, oh, ha ha ha, it's gonna be a fembot. Very funny. Other part of my brain. And that's reminded me of Alex plus Ada. So Alex plus Ada, brief little plot synopsis. I want everyone to go in completely blind. But I think even I knew this going in, is that it's a... Ada is a robot. Like human AI. So it actually, I kind of think that connection too, because I'm going to talk about AI. So, very relevant to today's world. And this came out in... When did this come out? And it wasn't that long ago. It's not like it was like 1985, and it's that far ahead of its time, and anything like that. It's just... even a few years ago, AI was very primitive. And to act like... But also to act like this is super far ahead of its time would be a bit of an overstatement. Would be kind of like, that's a bit much. But I don't want to discount it either. I don't want to say like, oh my god, this is, you know, if someone told me this was ahead of its time, I would not at all fault them for thinking that way. So the first issue came out 2013. Okay, wow, even better. This came out in 2013, started coming out in 2013, and it is already 10 years ahead of its time. Back in 2013, I don't even know what AI was. I remember a long time ago you had that message board. It was actually a female, and you would like type it back and forth and she would respond to you, and it was like in real time too. And like you do song lyrics, and she would do the first verse, she would do the second verse, and you go back and forth, back and forth. But I think even then, it would give up, and it would be like, okay, that's not the next lyric, you're not even doing song lyrics at all, you're just, it was very weird, it was very primitive. But now AI has gone to the point where people are legitimately getting tricked that this is actually AI. But they think it's not AI, but it is actually AI. And not just the Facebook's moms who see it and then get easily fooled. Like someone like that's like honestly, I could probably get fooled by AI and they're like, oh, it looks real. Oh no, it's AI. Oh my god, I cannot tell that. There actually are a few instances where that's happened. There's entire YouTube videos that are completely AI that don't look like they're AI at all, but they are. And those of you who are eagle-eyed, who really know your AI, like really study it, they will know there is still that bit of awkwardness with AI, even today. There's still the bit of awkwardness. So yeah, it's crazy that this comic comes. I read this comic around the time that AI is like really talked about and really like controversial and just a huge talking point in today's culture, not just pop culture, but on the news too. Because you have AI, you think about people thinking AI is going to take over their jobs, and I'm not going to get into that because I need to get into the actual book itself, and that is this has to do with AI partners, and that is something that I think is surprisingly relatable to someone like me who, I'm gonna be honest about it, I've not gone on a date in my entire month, my entire life. I've never gone on a date. Now that is that's gonna open up so many different boxes I don't want to open right now, but it's not my fault. And I do mean that. It's just the luck of the draw. I call it the luck of the draw. I've had some close calls here and there, but nothing concrete. And so something like this is instantly relatable because something did happen. A relationship did go extremely sour in like last November, and it was at work too. And I still work with this person, so that feeling of absolute dread where you don't want to even like think about relationships anymore is instantly relatable. Like this is like it's from the very start. That's why he gets the fembot, is because he's gone through a really bad breakup, and I went through a very bad heartbreak back in November. That was November 2024, and I still carry some of that hurt even today. Now, not as much, because turns out this person's extremely toxic, and I'm glad that I didn't get anywhere near her, like anywhere close to even friends. Like, she hates me. But I'm glad I didn't even get like friends, not even friends. She's just extremely toxic and just like just one of those people that I'm glad I didn't get to know better. But anyways, but still, like back in November, I felt that hurt. I felt like I didn't deserve anything other than the friend group I already made. It was just like that feeling. So this book was already super relatable. And will I get my own fembot? Probably not. But it does show the benefits. It does show how there are certain, and I'm not going to give away the twist, but there are some upsides to it. Even at first, there are some upsides that this comic that does explore. It explores it very well. This is written by Sarah Vaughn, and Sarah Vaughn did, I'm not going to say and Jonathan Luna, but it really is Sarah Vaughn. I feel like it's 100% Sarah Vaughn. Jonathan Luna just assists. But anyway, they both have story credits, but Sarah Vaughn did the whole entire script with some assists done by Jonathan Luna. But this is already my favorite Sarah Vaughn book. Now she also did Eternal Empire, which I also really liked, and the next book, Sleepless, which I'll get to after. But Sleepless, I'm reading for like the 50th time, and the previous 49 times I did like Sleepless. But I'll get into that after. But anyways, Alex Posada, I think, is my favorite Sarah Vaughn comic. And this almost, if it wasn't for Dark Ride, this would be the Dark Ride. This would be my pick of the month for September, and one of the best comics I've read this year. Purely because of the relatability, and it is also very page turner. It's also a page turner. This is 15 issues, which is not that much more than Dark Ride, and even then, I feel like I could read this back to back to back. Now, there are certain, like, some issues did take me longer to read than other issues did, like noticeably so. So pacing-wise, you're reading it all in one sitting, you're gonna notice the inconsistent pacing as you go along, but even then, it's not that big a deal. It's just that this one issue was like, took me 10 minutes to read, and then the next issue, it was 20 minutes, and 20 minutes is the average for me. So not that much different than my average book, but just for Alex Posada, it was noticeable. But I'm going to go over obviously I forgot to, no, I didn't forget. Okay, so clearly, if I'm saying this is one of the best comics I've read this year for both Dark Ride and Alex Posada, they both get 9.5 out of 10. Now, I hesitate to give it a 10 out of 10 because would I put these two in my top 10 comics of all time? Probably not. But they would get an honorable mention, which is why I give them a 9.5. So definitely top 20. Definitely that. Maybe even top 15. So that's what both Dark Ride and Alex Posada get, is a 9.5. And again, this one is 15 issues in within 3 volumes. Or 1 hardcover, if you were lucky enough to the hardcover. But they were quality. It was back in, and I don't mind that either. But it was back in December of 2023, and it was a little bit under budget. I couldn't do the same amount of money. I didn't have the same amount of money to spend as I did in previous years, and then the next year. It was just a weird 1-year thing. It's not anything because of, like, the family was in debt or anything like that. It was just one of those things that I swear they forgot how much they let me spend. So I was kind of doing quantity over quality. Like, I mean, it was books I still wanted. Don't get me wrong. Wait, no, sorry. I lied. It was back in 2022. I forgot. What is it? I don't know. Let's move on. No, it was back in 23. Let me consult this. Is it right there? Oh. Alright, it's right here, right? Okay. Yeah, sorry, no, it was 2022. Back in December 2022, not 2023. So now on to Sleepless. 2-volume series, so it's easier. I can hold it in one hand. I can hold one volume in one hand, unlike I can do the same with the last book. This is Sleepless by Sarah Vaughn. Now, this one you saw me review earlier this year, and I said that it started out very slowly, but got really good. Like, first volume was very slow, but second volume was exactly what I wanted from volume 1. Like, it fixed all the mistakes I had. That is not the case this time around. I actually like the series as a whole. None of this was slow for me. None of this was, nothing felt like it was filler, or nothing felt like it was, like, you could take this out and... No, like, this is one of the most tightly paced comics that I have read this year. Like, there is no wiggle room for anything to be taken out or even added in. Like, if you added anything else, I feel like, okay, you didn't need that, add that. No, it was the most tightly paced comics of all the time. Like, everything feels necessary that's included in these pages. And it has a really nice feel to it. It feels like it's kind of Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, but a not so boring version of Romeo and Juliet, because they have a twist here with the Sleepless, which I'll not give away because I went in completely blind the first time I read this way back, like years and years ago, when I first read this book, thanks to my local library. But this is absolutely phenomenal, and the best thing about Sarah Vaughn's comics, is that each comic feels decidedly different than the last. Alex Posada, even compared to Eternal Empire, feels very different, even though they're both sci-fi. Eternal Empire and Sleepless feel very different, even though they both have to do with slavery. They have like that's a backdrop of slavery. Eternal Empire still feels very different than Sleepless in tone and everything else. Like, you can't, like, honestly, I don't think I'd be able to tell it was written by the same writer. Now again, you have Jonathan Luna as the co-writer for Eternal Empire, and story-wise for Eternal Empire and Alex Posada. So maybe that's what it is, but I wouldn't say that's the case. It's still Sarah Vaughn's name on the book. But Sleepless, absolutely phenomenal stuff. If you like fantasy, if you liked what I just said about the book, if you like Leila Del Duca's artwork, you'll enjoy this one. Hell, I would say if you're just, like, if you want to get into fantasy, this would not be the worst book to pick up. Also, it's 11 issues, and it's a complete tale. It's like Saga, where it's 60-plus issues, and they're just scratching the surface. Then we have a fantasy series. So now we're on to the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 series are comics that I thought weren't that great, and I'm reading them again to redeem them, so to speak. Reread to redeem. For those of you who are new to the channel, I reread comics for 3 reasons. First and foremost is reread to redeem. I didn't like it that much the first time. Now it's either like Sleepless, where I thought it was like I liked it as a whole. I liked it as it went along, but want to reread it to see if I like it as a whole, and that was the case with Sleepless, or books like Sandman, where I know it's a really good series, but I didn't like it, and I reread it, and I find more and more to enjoy the more I reread it. Now, at this point, it's solidified. I don't think I'm gonna like Sandman any more than I do. I think I'm always gonna say that Volume 6 is what I hate about Sandman, and Volume 5 is what I love about Sandman. So, those of you who've read Sandman and really know your Sandman, hopefully you know what I'm talking about. But, so, Volume 6, Volume 5... I forget what Volume 5 is called. Dollhouse. I think it's what Volume 5 is. Doll's House. That one I really liked. Volume 6 is Fables and Reflections. Hated that one. Honestly, I kind of hate Volume 6. Now, I have reread it recently. When I reread it recently, I said it wasn't as bad as I remember it being, but I still didn't like it that much. I was so glad to be done with it when I finished it. But anyways. So then the second criteria is I really enjoyed it. I want to reread it. I'm already planning on doing that for Silver Coin, especially because it's a horror comic and it's spooky month. So by the end of the month, we're getting a re-review of Silver Coin. But I love Silver Coin, so I'm rereading because I loved it so much. And the third one is books like Scalped, where I'm finally getting to finish it, so I need to refresh my memory for what I have read before, to get what I haven't read before, but to remember to, re-trigger my memory so I know what's going on. That's 3 criteria for rereads. Alright, so, Nomen Omen, I didn't really like the first time. I didn't hate it, but I thought it was just okay. And it's still kind of a mess. It's enjoyably a mess, but I like it more when, for some reason, the highlight here is when it's just the slice of life stuff. When it's just the characters talking amongst themselves and it's, just seeing the characters interact in the real world. But then when we get to the fantasy stuff, it's good. Boy, oh my god, my voice is super cracked there. It's good, but, if this book had just been, the Moonstruck of fantasy comics, where they just had, one little fantasy element, but it was just, or supernatural element here in this case, but they had, but it took place in the real world, I don't know, it was just magic creatures living their lives every day, living their everyday lives, then it would be a high recommend. But as is, it's a modest recommendation. I recommend it enough. It's a complete 7 out of 10 comic. Maybe even 6 out of 10. But nah, I say 7 out of 10. Because I did like this a little bit more than I did the previous time. So 7.5 out of 10 even. Because I didn't give it 7. I think I gave it 7 out of 10 last time. But 7.5 out of 10 this time around. It's just when it gets to... It's like knee deep in this magic... supernatural stuff, which is interesting, and it starts out when this book starts out, you want to know what's going on immediately, because when the first issue is over, you're like, okay, now I'm hooked. It hooks you in right from the first issue, but then it just gets so lost in the sauce that by the end of the comic, you're like, oh yeah, that's right too. I did want to know what was going on, and I still don't know what's going on, and that's the whole point. I get that, and I don't mind that. But it's also kind of it's just you're throwing way too much. And I feel like this should have been 30 issues, but you squeezed it into 15 issues. The magical elements, at least. Everything else is really good. The characters, the dialogue is very natural. Every character sounds different than the other. You kind of you gotta do the relationships, especially the one that's in the beginning. Right off the bat, you're rooting for the characters to stay together that we meet right off the bat, which is crazy. Within 5 pages, you feel that. Even on a reread, I still felt that same way. And the stakes are pretty high, too. With all this magical element, you never know what's going to happen next. That is one thing I'll give it. You never know what's going to happen next. The stakes are pretty high. And unfortunately, this series was never concluded. So it does end on a cliffhanger that I kind of want to see concluded. But you can conclude this all in one volume. Volume 4, 5 issues, and I wouldn't bat an eye. Also, this is 3 volumes and is 15 issues total. The artwork is also pretty good, and just the whole design of this book too feels different than Image. When I first bought this book, I said it felt like it was Boom Studios. It felt more like something is killing the children. It would be written by James Tynion. or at least the artist with this theme. But I still feel that way. But anyways, and it's written by Marco B. Bushi. Yeah, all around I give this a 7.5 out of 10. I still do recommend it despite its downsides, because the upsides are just so much more present than the downsides. Like it almost makes up for the downsides. But again, the downsides. So if I said it made up for the downsides completely, I give this an 8 out of 10. But 7.5 out of 10 because it kind of doesn't. On the reread, it was less egregious than it was the first time I read it. Now on to a series I kind of hated the first time I read it, and that is Excellence. Much like with Nomen Omen, it just gets too lost in the sauce. But here, there's not a whole lot to grasp on if you don't like the magical elements. But this time around, I did really appreciate it. I felt like the artwork complemented the story tenfold. Like without the artist here, Carrie Randolph, without Carrie Randolph's artwork, I feel like the series would not be as popular as it is now. And this also did deserve the... And speaking of the artwork, this did, in fact, deserve its oversized hardcover Kickstarter treatment. Now, I can't get the Kickstarter. I didn't obviously not get the Kickstarter version of this comic. I got the soft covers. Sleepless had one too, apparently. I found that out this past month. But Excellence and Sleepless both had Kickstarter hardcovers, but I obviously didn't get either of them. And for Sleepless, I'm like, damn it, I kind of wish I'd known that. But with Excellence, I'm kind of like, well, glad I wasted it. Glad I got the soft covers and I saved my money. But this isn't bad. It's not bad at all, but it is still a 6 out of 10. I get like a 4 or a 5 out of 10 the first time around. Now what's crazy is that the first time I read this book, first of all, never had to finish it. Library only had volume 1 and not volume 2, so I never got to finish the series. So the previous time I read this series, earlier this year, it was my first time reading this series as a whole. Now again, bit of a cliffhanger, so it was supposed to come out with more issues, never did, unfortunately. A lot of Brandon Thomas's image work never got finished, which is a really weird coincidence. That's the same for Horizon. But Excellence, I just felt was just kind of confusing too, and the kind of bad confusing where you feel like you need to know what's going on to understand things. Whereas in Nomen Omen, it's fine that you don't know what's going on because I don't think the author does either. Very Grant Morrison kind of a Grant Morrison kind of way of writing, if you know what I mean. Hopefully you do. I'm not going to explain myself. But Excellence just kind of felt like it was, you need to know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, you're not going to appreciate it. But again, the first time I read the series, when I read Volume 1, I was so disappointed I didn't have Volume 2 because I liked Volume 1 so much. And I was hoping to get that same feeling when I finally finished it. And I'm like, oh my god, I finally finished like the Middle West of Brandon Thomas's work. Where Middle West was Scotty Young, never got to finish Volume 3, had Volumes 1 and 2 down, and was such a huge cliffhanger. I was like, oh my god, I need to finish Volume 3, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. But I finally got to finish it, and it was well worth the wait, and all of that. My god, that series is excellent. But unfortunately, Excellence, I felt like it was actually kind of worse the second time I read it. And if the first time I gave like an 8 out of 10, and now it was like a 4 or a 5 out of 10. Nowadays, with my recent reread, I would give this a 6 out of 10. It's just average in my opinion. The artwork does a lot for this comic though. But I still do recommend it. 6 out of 10 is still a recommend for me, but it's just a recommend in general. Oh, 2 volumes, 12 issues. Genius, 2 volumes, 11 issues. Genius is written by Mark Bernardin with a co-writer credit for Adam Freeman. This time around, I did like this a little bit more. The first time I read it, I honestly want to say it's as close as it was to my first reading of the series that we've gotten to thus far. Volume 2 is leaps and bounds better. Volume 1 is a bit messy. I think overall the series needed one more draft. One more draft, and this would have been the underground classic that it deserves to be. Now this and Excellence. When I was reading both these books, I could, especially with Excellence, that's one major upside I'll give to Excellence. I could totally see this being the Static Shock of this generation. Genius for those people living in the projects, and for Excellence those who those who want representation done right. So that's another thing. Excellence is represent, and this is too. Both are representation done right. Destiny AJ, that's the character's name, is a gangbanger, and they don't have the jokes you expect to have for a gangbanger. They don't have the scene where one of the people catcalls her and she gets offended, and the catcaller was like, "Well, you're a gangbanger," so none of that is present. Honestly, if it's one of those, they mention it and then they're done with it. When they're talking about, they have like a little brief to catch you up, like previously on kind of thing, every next issue, and they mention that she's a gangbanger. That's the only time they mention it. And then there are a few like mentions here and there, but it's also very much in the artwork and the feel of the book and just everything. Even if this was a prose novel, I could still tell this took place in the projects. You can just tell that's the way it is, and the dialogue is not like insultingly stereotypical project speak. It does feel very much like how I have seen the projects be represented in the news too. Like when they have like a news story about people in the projects and they interview some people in the projects, it feels very realistic. That's how honestly it feels like Adam Freeman and or Mark Bernardin have experience being in the project, so they interview, like they just like did their research. That goes a lot for this. That goes a lot to say that this book does do that right. It's just the story itself is just kind of clunky. Like this time around, I felt like some pages were taken out. Like they kind of went from point A to point C kind of quickly. Not point A to point C, just point A to point C. They didn't do point B. For whatever reason, they forgot point B. But it's not that. It's noticeable, but it doesn't take away from the overall experience too much. It's noticeable. All in all, I give this an 8 out of 10. Because of Volume 2, mostly. But I still think this is a really good series, but solid 8. Only reason why I'm not giving it a 7.5 out of 10 is because I definitely enjoyed it more overall than Nomen Omen. So Volume 1, I always said, was like, you're playing Saints Row. I say Saints Row, that's gangsters. And that's what this is. It's gangsters, too. And I always say that, it feels like you're playing Saints Row 2 with the cheat enabled and you're blasting the cops away and all of that. I still feel that's the case. And that's why I say the story is kind of paper thin, too, with Volume 1. Volume 2 different, obviously. But Volume 1, the story is kind of paper thin. It's just kind of the gangsters against the cops for reasons. And they are pretty good reasons. When you learn about Destiny's past, it does do more for the story. So I hesitate to say this time it's paper thin. Like it's whatever is in between paper thin and not in the opposite paper thin. It's kind of in that middle ground. Not too far to right the middle, like maybe like 40% paper thin. That kind of thing. But anyways, still good. I still give this an 8 out of 10. I still think it's worth a read. This shouldn't be too expensive nowadays. It's a pretty old book. But, again, 2 volumes, 11 issues. Honestly, you can probably find the entire series on eBay for $15, and it's worth it, in my opinion. Now, on to a reread that I liked a lot more than I did the first time, and that is Invisible Republic. So this is written by Gabriel Hardman and Karina Bajko. Karina Bajko and Gabriel Hardman. They worked on what I consider to be one of the finest comics of all time. Their run on Boom Studios' version of Planet of the Apes. I have not watched the original Planet of the Apes movies that the comics are based off of, but already I can say that just in general, if they're going to go back to that era of Planet of the Apes, adapt to that. Adapt the Boom comics. Adapt the Boom Studios comic run. That's how good that series is. The pacing is excellent. It has perfect pacing, in my opinion. Just really damn good. It's a thick ass book with over 20 issues, and by the end of it, I was like, even my most recent reread, I was still disappointed to see that series go. That's how good that series is. Like, it's a 9.5 out of 10. It's absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. And then when I read Kinski, but that was just written by Giggle Hardman, no Karina. I really liked that one. Like, really, really dug that one. Then I read Heathen Town by Karina Bachko. I thought that was like the perfect horror comic. It was a 80 pages too, so it was relatively quick, but it still told its story, and I didn't feel like there was any loose ends that were still tied up. I just thought it was really damn good, and there was just knocking it out of the park, hitting a home run every single goddamn time. And then I read Green Lantern Earth 1. And then I read, for the first time, it's my first time reading it, my most recent reread, I'm talking, not this time, my most recent reread, before this time. When I read Invisible Republic and Green Lantern Earth 1, I had the same issues. Not only was it not nearly as good as their other work, but it was also, like, borderline disappointing. It felt like they took a huge step back. And a lot of it has to do with the pacing. Planet of the Apes had perfect pacing. This, because it's a different story than Planet of the Apes, has to have more dialogue. And I didn't appreciate that. I thought it was overabundant with the dialogue. Even considering it as a comic in general, not comparing it to their other work, I thought it was very overindulgent with dialogue. Just way too much dialogue. Like, it was just like, it's kind of like eating the entire cake instead of eating it piece by piece, eat it all at once, or eating the entire ice cream tub at once. That's how I felt like reading this book was. This time around, I feel the same way. It's like you're eating the entire cake, but you're not eating anything all day. So you're starved, and you just eat that entire cake, and it's done, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I finished that all in one sitting, and it felt like nothing. That's this book in a nutshell. It is really damn good. Damn shame this never got complete. This never got completed. Because again, it ends on a cliffhanger. Not a huge cliffhanger. There are some loose ends that are tied up, and I appreciated this time around. But this will definitely be the series that I reread very again and again. And it gets an 8.5 out of 10. So like reread consistently. So the reread, I say reread every 6 months on average. That's because of some series that are longer, like Preacher and Why the Last Man. The latter of which being one I like, but not as much as Preacher. Honestly, Preacher I might just buy myself. That's how much I like Preacher. But this one will probably be, I reread this one every 3 months or so. There's also a lot to unpack in the series too. Like, within 15 issues, a lot of information given out to you. So there is a lot to unpack from the series. So it is going to be one of those series I reread just to unpack more and more and more, and I will not mind doing that whatsoever. So another knockout from the phenomenal creative team of, has been a web team by the way too, of Gabriel Hardman and Karina Bachko. 3 volumes, unfortunately 15 issues thus far. I unfortunately don't think they're gonna continue with this. Karina Bachko does have, she is writing comics still. Gabriel Hardman, like, he's fallen off the map completely. So unfortunately, I don't think we're ever gonna get that concluded. Now on to the next series that I didn't like that much, and that is Gasolina. 18 issues, 3 volumes, so 6 issues per volume. I don't know why I specified that this time. But anyways, this series I loved. This is so damn entertaining. Now, it's not deep at all. It's not gonna make you think differently. It's not thought-provoking. It's not groundbreaking. It's not any of that. It's just hugely entertaining. It does not have a consistent plot either. It will just throw things at the wall and see what sticks. Not completely, but they will just kind of like. One of the complaints about this series was it felt like some pages were missing. This time around, I felt it was more tighter than I remember the first time. First time I was like, completely agree with that. But this time around, I'm like, no, not really. I mean, here and there, yes. It does feel like, but it's between issues. Kind of felt like the next issue I was like, what the hell happened last issue? Why are we here? I actually had to go back and like refresh my memory. And even then I was like, I don't know. But still really damn good. I absolutely love this series now, and it's written by Sean Makiewicz, who is a editor for Image Comics. So kind of nice that, kind of funny, kind of nice, kind of cool to see an editor write his own series. This is good. It's just pure entertainment value. 8.8 out of 10. So 3 volumes across 18 issues across 3 volumes. Moonstruck, written by Grace Ellis. I think she's the only writer. No co-writer here. Don't know why I thought that. Why, oh why, did we never get a conclusion to this series? This is absolutely adorable. If you liked Lumberjanes, this is better than Lumberjanes. Like, leaps and bounds better than Lumberjanes, and I love Lumberjanes. I absolutely adored this comic. This, if you're, like, feeling down, or, like, you want to get a little bit cheering up, read this book. If you like that, and it's only if you like books like Lumberjanes, like those kind of girly comics, but this will appeal to anybody who likes romance, anybody who wants representation done right. It's here. Now there are certain things that I actually, honestly, this time around, so last time I read this book, I said there was one instance where there was a trans character and they got dead named, and it was like this big thing. They made a huge deal, to the point where I think even trans people will be like, okay, that's not a great representation of how we are like that. And it was more like that. It wasn't dead named. It was like they gave the wrong pronouns. And the person that was telling them like, oh, you're he, not she, they weren't doing it to insult them. It was just a mistake. And they like consoled the character. I don't know if that was this. I don't know if that was that this. I don't know if it was this series, because I don't remember that. And it hasn't been that long since I've read Moonstruck. But this is just absolutely adorable. And it's one of those comics that you really can't judge based off the cover, because if you judge on the cover and you're like, oh, it's one of those books, it might not be. You might find yourself surprised. 8.5 out of 10 for Moonstruck. Honestly, 8.5 out of 10 for Gasolina too. I think 8 out of 10 is too low a score. Two more series. So one after this. This one is Evolution, and this is written by multiple writers. So Joshua Williamson only does volume 1, but the entire series as a whole is written by Christopher Sabala, James Asmus, and Joseph Kienje. And this is 3 different plot lines in one issue. So it's overall it's about evolution, and overall it takes place in the present time. So it's not like, oh, 1940, 1980, and 2010. No, it's all present day. No matter what characters we're following, there is no real crossover with the characters. I didn't mind that. And the plot line I liked the most was, those of you who read it, is Claire. Claire's story I really liked. Everyone else's is fine. There's no plot line I was like, oh, God damn it, back to these people. Honestly, this entire series had just been about Claire. I would not have minded that. It's really damn good. It's written really well. And honestly, I almost want to say that was Christopher Sabala's storyline. I think it's just all written by these people, so Claire's story is still written by all three to four people, but it's kind of too much of a coincidence, especially as we go on, that there's 3 different plot lines and 3 different writers. So I was kind of doing this myself. I was like, okay, so this one is not as good as the Claire story is. So is this the one written by Joseph Kienje, or is this the one written, this is the one written by James Asmus? Because I like that one. That's my second favorite. So that's James Asmus, right? That's what I was doing. I can't say for certain, but I do think it was, because they don't say like who writes who. They don't have like a credits page for each individual like Claire story. It's not Claire story written by. No, that's not how the credits page works. The entire series is written by those 3 to 4 people. But all in all, I like this one. This one's pretty damn good. Kind of all over the place at times, and I didn't really grasp exactly what was going on. I got enough of a taste of what's going on. And again, it's that nice like monster movie kind of comic where there are some disturbing elements, and you're not supposed to know what's going on completely, but it's still entertaining. But it's just entertaining in general, not mildly, more than mildly. Just entertaining, moderately entertaining, a little bit more than moderately. It just is not like super entertaining. It wasn't a huge page turner at all. It was just one I liked reading every time I read it. But the pacing was just okay. Like, it was good. Like, it was good, consistent pacing. I can say that at least. But all around, I give this one an 8 out of 10. A solid 8. And it's 3 volume, 18 issues across 3 volumes. I can remember to do it like this. Wait, I did it wrong. Right? Yeah, like that. Okay. Alright. Now on to the last series, and that is Little Bird and the prequel, Precious Metal. This was so damn good. The closest so far, recently at the very least, that I have read an image book that feels like it's early Vertigo. This feels like early Vertigo 100%. Darcy, this deserves its Eisner win. This deserves all the praise it got 100%. And it is super and criminally underrated. We need to get this series to be as popular as Saga. This is the dystopian fantasy, science fiction fantasy dystopian version of Saga that everyone has been looking for. If you're disappointed that Saga is taking forever to come out with its next story arc, just read Little Bird. It'll scratch that itch. It's not the same as Saga. If you like Saga and you want more Saga, that's not going to be what this is, like, in general. But, in general, yes. But not, like, specifics. In general, yes. Specifics, no. If you like this, if you like the, genres, and you like how Saga feels different than your average fantasy science fiction comic, this will scratch that itch. 100%. And both these volumes get a 9 out of 10. Precious Metal feels like that sequel that came out, like, years later, but it was still as good as the original and was worth the wait. But absolutely phenomenal stuff. I'm keeping it vague and I'm keeping it brief because I want you guys going in as blind as I did. Honestly, I don't know if I can really tell you the plot line because it's really much all over the place. But I cannot wait to reread it so I can understand more and more about the world of Little Bird. And that, as they say, is that 51-minute video. I'm gonna prattle on a little bit at the end here while I stack these books, and I gotta put these all away on my shelf. I'm not kind of looking forward to that. Hey, maybe I have a YouTube video to watch. You never know. That's what I do sometimes. I'm putting books away. I'll just watch YouTube videos, and it's a nice way to be like, hey, this YouTube video is like 10 minutes long, and I honestly, I think I have a Penguin Z0 video to watch. Now that I remember. I remember. So yeah, no books here I hated. Like, even Excellence, I didn't mind reading it every day. Completely. There were some days where I was like, oh, Excellence. But even Excellence I liked more than they did the first time around. So this time around, like, almost a complete win-win. Not win-win, but like they call it. Like, almost like consistently good. But I don't think I'll ever like Excellence to the point where I'm like, oh my god, it's so good, you should read it. Other than the fact that, again, the artwork is so damn good. That artwork, like, that needs to be, you know, they need to come out with a non-Kickstarter version of that hardcover, because that's the one instance where I'm like, even thinking about it now, I'm like, maybe I do want the oversized hardcover. There was a time there when I was like, hey, let's check eBay. I know I have the softcovers, and I'm trying to get, you know, I don't want to waste my money and all that. And really, that's the only reason why I didn't get it a long time ago, was because I had way too many other books to get, and I couldn't spare $30. I think it was rather expensive too. And then I think it was just kind of like, yeah, at the end of the day, who cares? I still have the softcover. And so that's the other thing about me. I don't care what format I read a book in. Now, if it was released, if the individual issues were this size, and I have to, and the trade is this size, that pisses me off. But if it's an OGN, like this is an OGN, you can't get this anywhere that's bigger than this or smaller than this. That's fine. But originally, if it's originally like this and it's like this, hell no. If it's originally like this, that's fine. And of course, like Little Bird, I'm glad I got the oversized hardcover. So bigger is better, in my opinion, but not a necessity. And I can hear you guys saying that's what she said right now. You're very funny. I'm gonna end the video now because you're doing me. I was kidding. No, I'm gonna end the video now because now we're at 54 minutes. I don't think I'm gonna get this to an hour long video.